Hi, and welcome to the fifth video and final video in our Proxmox PowerShell module series. So today what we're actually going to be taking our PS1 script that we've been kind of treating as our module along the way. As I said in the first video, we're only going to be creating the module in the last video. So today we're actually going to be taking our PS1 file and making that into a full-blown PowerShell module, so that we're going to be creating the PSM1 file and the PSD1 file as well. So let's go ahead and let's actually get started on that right away. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is create a folder for our module. So we're just going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to name that Proxmox Tools. And then the first thing that we have to do inside of this folder is also create a file called Proxmox Tools.psm1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our functions from our PS1 file that we've been working on, and we are going to go ahead and we are going to copy that into our PSM1 file. Now, typically in a module, you would also want to have a bunch of synopsis written up, and we're actually going to be writing that up in just a little bit. I just want to show you guys what happens if we don't do any of that, what happens with our get help and stuff. So what we're just going to do, we're just going to paste in our functions, and then later on, I'm going to give you guys a blueprint for a synopsis, and then leave you guys with the rest. I'm going to copy paste what I already have for mine, just in case you guys have some different parameters or added some functions in between the videos. So let's go ahead. Now that we have our PSM1, we're going to make sure that we save this. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create our PSD1 file. Now to create a PSD1 file, what we can actually do is we can use a built-in PowerShell commandlet for that. So we're going to do a new dash module manifest. And then for our path here, we're going to do a set of double quotes. And we're going to copy the path from our folder here, the Proxmox Tools folder. And we're going to do a backslash, and we're going to do Proxmox Tools.psd1 here. And then in the next parameter here, root module, this is where we're going to put Proxmox Tools.psm1. And then we're going to put the author here. I'm going to put that as Jacked Programmer. You would put this, of course, as your name. The company name, I'm going to put that as Jacked Programmer. And then the description I'm going to put is PowerShell module for managing Proxmox via REST API and API token. And then our next parameter is going to be functions to export. Here, I'm going to just put star because we're going to be exporting all of our functions. And then our last one here is going to be PowerShell version. Here, we're going to want to make sure we put 7.0. Now, typically you could easily put 5.1 here, but because we are using that skip certificate check parameter on our functions, that does not exist in PowerShell 5.1. So we're going to have to put PowerShell 7.0 here. And we're just going to go ahead and run this here. And we're going to see it creates our PSD1 file. Now, we don't actually have to change anything here. You could maybe change the version of the module here, but I'm going to leave it at 0.0.1. It is the first absolute version of our module, and then you're going to work on this and update that module version. So once we actually have all of that here, let's go ahead and let's open up a PowerShell 7 window here. And let's just do a quick little get command module. And we know that we called our module Proxmox Tools here. If we do that, we get nothing back. And that's because we haven't imported our module yet. So let's go ahead and let's do our import module. And let's do a set of double quotes here. And we're going to copy the path to our Proxmox Tools folder, not the PSM1 file, but the actual folder itself. And let's go ahead and let's import that. And then let's try the get command once again. And we're going to see that we actually get all of our commands, and we can see that the version that we get back is that 0.01, which is awesome. So now let's go ahead and let's do a get help on the connect dash Proxmox API token. Now you're going to see that we get the name and the syntax, but we don't get anything else. And that's because we didn't create our synopsis comment, you can say, or the actual documentation for our commandlet yet. So let's go ahead and let's just close this window for now. We're going to come back to this. And let's go into our PSM file. And let's go ahead and let's create the first get help here for the connect Proxmox API token. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to do a less than symbol, and then the pound sign or number sign here. Then just hit enter a few times. I'm just going to do it once for now. And then the first thing we're going to do is do a dot and then a synopsis here. Now what this is basically a synopsis of what your command does. So we're going to say connects to a Proxmox server using an API token. And then we're going to do a dot description. And again, this is kind of the same thing. So we're gonna actually just, I often copy paste the synopsis. You can definitely give more details in the description. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do parameter, and then our parameter that we're gonna describe is gonna be Proxmox server. As you can see, Visual Studio Code actually gives you a lot of IntelliSense in here, so it will make it quite a bit easier. And then our Proxmox server is gonna be the host name or IP address of the Prox, let's do Proxmox server here. And we're going to have another parameter here. We're going to have token ID. This is going to be the I keep putting capitals there, the API token ID, including the username, the username and token name. And let's give a little example here. Root at am my token. And then let's create one last parameter here for secret. The secret key for the API token. And then we're going to have one last little section here called example. And we're going to have here connection equals connect dash Proxmox API token, Proxmox server. And let's just put in a 192.168.1.10, just a random IP address there. And then our token ID is going to be root at Pam my token. And then our secret is we're just going to put secret here. And that should be good. So if we actually go ahead and we save this here, and let's go back into our PowerShell 7. Once again, if we do a get command on the module Proxmox tools, we won't get anything. So let's go ahead and let's import that. And now if we do the get command, it doesn't look any different. But now if we do a get help on the connect Proxmox API token, we can see that we get a lot more details. We actually get a syntax and description, and we actually get remarks here to actually say that there's more options here. So let's do a dash full on that get help. And here we can actually see our example that we typed out. We can see a bunch of the parameters, what they mean, if they are required or not, what position they are, if they accept from pipeline, anything like that. So that is awesome. So let's go ahead and let's just, because now if we do a, of course, if we do another get command and then we do a get dash help on the start Proxmox VM here, we won't get anything because we did not fill those out. So what I actually have here is I actually have a full-blown version with all the synopsis, description filled out for all the commands here. So let me just paste that in here. And what we're just going to do, if you ever want to re-import, so now that we've actually updated the PSM, if we just do an import module again and we do a get help, you will see that the get help didn't get updated. What we actually need to do is do an import module and then do a dash force here. And then if we do a get help, we're going to see that we get those extra details, which is awesome. So now what we can actually do to fully see if that actually works is we know that we wrote basically our entire script to see if it actually works. So let's go ahead and let's copy this section of our script, which gets back our node here. And let's go ahead and let's paste that in. And let's look at what our node variable is equal to. So we actually do see that we get our node back. So let's go ahead and let's do a get Proxmox VM connection. We're going to do connection details node. We're going to do node.node. And let's just see what we get back. So we get back all of our different VMs, which is awesome. Now let's get back our specific VM name, Ubuntu Web. We actually get back just our specific one, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and let's store that into a variable here. And now let's do a start Proxmox VM connection. We're going to do connection details. Our node is going to be our node.node. And then our VM name is we're going to use our VM variable .name here. Let me actually just move this a little bit further this side. And if we actually run this, we can see that we get back something nice. And let's do our get VM with that Ubuntu Web, and we can actually see that it is actually running now. So let's go ahead and let's do the exact same thing, but instead of start Proxmox VM, let's do stop Proxmox VM. And now let's get that VM again, and we can actually see get Proxmox VM. We can actually see that the status is now stopped. So that is awesome. And then let's do it once more. Let's just start the Proxmox VM and then let's get it. And we can see that it is now running. And once again, we can just stop that. And then if we get it again, still running, we get it now, still running. And that's because it might not be, I might not be waiting right away because it does need to be fully booted before we can actually stop it, of course. Let's resend the stop here. And it does seem like it is still running. Let's do once more. So again, it only stops it if it can do it safely. We can still see here that it is still running. So it did stop the first time here. So let's just do a stop Proxmox VM. Everything looks good here. Let's just then type in Ubuntu Web here. And what we might even have to do, oh, there it is. So there it is. It is stopped now. So with the stop, because we did the safe shutdown, it won't just stop. It does have to wait till it boots up right away. So you will have to wait till your server is fully up before you can shut it down, because it does use those ACPI commands. So sometimes if you're trying to do a start and stop right away, you will notice that the stop doesn't necessarily work right away. It does need to be fully booted up into basically that login screen. But if we do a get now, you can see that it is stopped. And if we just do for fun here, do another start on it, and we do a get, we can see that it is running. So everything in our module is actually working very, very well. I will have this on my GitHub as well if you guys want to play around with the module that I have created. With all of the synopsises are already on there, all the parameters, the description, everything is going to be there. So be lookout for that. The link to my GitHub will also be in the description of this video. So please check that out as well. Also, the next video that I will be releasing, I'll just be going over what I've actually just bought for myself for the home lab that we have here. And I'm going to be using that from now on. So be sure to stay tuned for that, because I'm going to be using that for my home lab. And I'm going to also be doing a review on what I purchased maybe a little bit later on, because I think a lot of you guys could get some use out of it, because it was pretty cheap off Amazon, especially during the Prime days that just happened. So stay tuned for that. Also, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out, and I will see you guys on the next video.